U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, has issued a new advisory on loneliness as a health issue. He calls it an epidemic.
This is a problem that has been building for decades in our country. COVID certainly worsened it. It poured fuel on the fire, but that fire was burning before. Research shows that loneliness and isolation are associated with a greater risk of heart disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. In fact, lacking connection can increase the risk of premature death to levels comparable to smoking daily. About 1 in 2 American adults report experiencing loneliness. This widespread disconnection presents profound threats to our health and well-being. Now is the time to invest in building social connection.
There's 40 million people that live in apartments in our nation, so that's a hard number to grasp. That's like the size of the state of California. 95% of them are unchurched.
Most people, when they get out of college, they find a multifamily community that they choose to live in. We've seen a lot of people after they get married, they again choose to stay in the multifamily community. And then we've also seen a lot of middle-class folks sell their single-family homes and move into multifamily communities because it's a easier lifestyle for them.
They are staying in apartments for much longer. And so what we term as the propensity to rent apartments, in terms of all the different housing choices that you have, single family for sale, single family rental, going out and owning a condo versus renting a multifamily apartment, that has now a 4-decade history of trending up and to the right.
And most of these people that are living in these apartment communities are super lonely. It's like 53% of residents don't know anybody. They don't know even the next door neighbor. They are disconnected in a deep way.
Well, I think most people are aware that our nation is in the midst of an epidemic of loneliness. And it's a problem everywhere, but it's especially acute in apartment communities where despite all these great amenities and common spaces, most people really don't know their neighbors. This was driven home for me when I heard the story about this man here in Dallas who died alone in his apartment, and his body wasn't discovered for 3 years. And it wasn't until his bank account was completely emptied out that anyone realized that something was wrong. I had to wonder how many people are living in apartments right now that if they died today, nobody would know for several months.
The turnover makes it such that a lot of times it's difficult to build relationships. That's one of the things I love about apartment life is the intentionality that they put into building community.
The best part about where you live isn't the place, the amenities, or even that killer view. It's the people. People are what make us feel connected, from a wave across the parking lot, to sharing dinner, to real friendships. But most residents living in apartment communities don't even know their neighbors. And while apartment residents are lonelier than ever, churches aren't sure how they can serve these communities. That's why we created Apartment Life, a faith-based nonprofit built on a business model that meets the needs of apartment owners and local churches. Research shows the more friends a resident has, the happier they are, and the longer they stay, even when rent goes up. Which is why we hire amazing people gifted in hospitality that love hosting epic events. Our coordinators have hundreds of natural opportunities to demonstrate God's love to residents and connect them to the local church.
And we're currently serving over 650 apartment communities around the country, and we help apartment owners and operators with 2 of their greatest needs, which is resident retention and resident satisfaction. Meeting your neighbors, just making friends, is kind of a lost art out there. And it takes often a catalyst, somebody who is going to say, hey, have you met this person over here, to make that happen. And that's what we hope to be.
It's different. I mean, because this is a business, but it's also a ministry. So it's like this business tree.
The thing that drew me to Apartment Life is this mashup of business and ministry together. I served for 24 years with the collegiate ministry that was pure ministry, but I always felt like there was a business side of me that was itching to get out.
Turnover is expensive in a multifamily community, and you talk about why. Why do you have turnover? Why are residents leaving?
When your residents don't have any sense of connectedness to where they live, what they're renting is like a box to live in. It's just a commodity. And if somebody down the road offers the same commodity at a good enough price, your residents are just going to move over there because they don't have any sense of connectedness. There's no roots there.
I think owners and management companies are hiring us, even though they don't care about the faith part that we do. It's just because they're seeing the value that we can bring to the community. They're seeing that they have to create a good sense of community to be able to thrive, their businesses. And the reality is that leasing agents and managers are to the top. Like, they have so many things to do. We are constantly working with managers, and they're like just trying to keep their head afloat. So expecting them to be able to connect in a deep way with the community is going to be very hard. They want that to happen. They just don't have the capacity and the time to do it.
Neighbors are a wonderful amenity. People just don't think of having a good neighbor is part of an amenity package. What we found in terms of renewal percentage is that you're much more likely to renew based on the number of friends you have.
For apartment owners, the average turnover cost of a vacant unit is about $1,800. You've got lost rent, redo the carpet, you've got to repaint it. So you got all these maintenance issues. And so those add up. If you just save a few leases using our program, this more than pays for the cost of the program. But the other reason it makes sense is the online reputation piece. One of the things that our teams do is as they find residents who are having a great experience, they encourage them to post an online review.
We, almost on a monthly basis, produce what we call a written survey. And so that's Apartment Life goes out and surveys the residents and the staff at a specific property and says, okay, what impact does Apartment Life make on the property? And so it's based on the results of those surveys. We found that resident retention is increased, the staff retention is increased. If you kind of average over that time horizon, the financial impact is almost $190,000 a year in terms of reduced make-ready. From a financial standpoint, it really does make a lot of sense. But then, in addition, if you're a faith-based investor, to have that benefit to the kingdom is something you can't quantify, right?
And a lot of churches, I don't think they are aware of the statistics and the reality of how many unchurched people are at every community. 95% don't go to any church. And how much loneliness there is. 53% don't know anybody. Even though they're surrounded by hundreds or even thousands of people, there's a lot of disconnection. It's similar to an unreached place in the world where the gospel basically is not being preached at all. All types of persons are there. So you're touching nations, like literally nations, by just being present at one community.
And churches want to reach people like that, but they don't know how to do it because these are often gated communities with non-solicitation policies. So Apartment Life gives churches a valid business reason, if you will, to be there in that apartment community, to meet needs and then to meet residents.
One of my favorite emails to get during the month is when Pete sends an email out that kind of just tells some of the stories of what happened in some of the communities that they serve across the U.S. And it's so encouraging. In all types of investments, I think people want to do good and have that kind of double bottom line. And so there's a huge opportunity to impact a great number of residents and folks when you're investing in an apartment community.
On average, we're saying a person every day come to Christ this year through our ministry. And I think there would be nothing more satisfying if I were an apartment owner and knowing not just that I'm making a good return on my investment, but that people's lives are being changed.
You look at the consistent returns that apartments have generated now, again, over 4-decade period of having good, reliable data has outperformed office and retail, et cetera. And so if you look on a risk-adjusted basis, apartments are right up there with industrial. in terms of that, more bang for your buck.
At JPI, we have approximately 300 associates based here in Texas and Southern California. Since our founding in 1989, we've developed 375 communities, 114,000 homes, about $18 billion of development. Today, we're doing about $1.5 billion of new development a year, just roughly 5,000 homes. One of the fastest growing developers in the United States in the top 10. Our model for the past 34 years has been a merchant builder where we build and sell. So JPI has had an apartment life team in every community that we've developed. It makes sense. Why wouldn't we?
If you're a faith-driven investor, I can't think of a better place to park your money than real estate. Obviously, it's got great, returns, but you can have a tangible impact in people's lives because this is where people live. This is where they do life. This is where they celebrate all the major events in their life. And so by being an apartment owner, you're responsible for where that person lives for several years. And so you can have an enormous impact in their life. I would love to see a day where the people who are living in apartments really could say, hey, I love it here because this is where my best friends live. I think most of us grew up watching the TV show Friends, and that's what we picture what living in an apartment is going to be like. Like all my best buds are going to be here. We're going to be coming in and out of each other's apartments. And sadly, that's not what most people experience. But what if it was? What if this was the place that people could say, I love it here because everyone knows my name?